The morning everything changed. Jennifer Morris knew exactly three things at 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. Her coffee maker had picked the wrong day to die. Her daughter's science project volcano was refusing to erupt. And an alien armada had just appeared in Earth's orbit. The first two problems were, unfortunately, more pressing than the third. Mom, the volcano won't work, and I have to present it in 20 minutes. 13-year-old Rachel's voice carried the unique blend of teenage drama and genuine panic that Jennifer had become well acquainted with since leaving her position as commander of the Seoul Defense Force's 3rd Fleet. "Have you checked the baking soda ratio?" Jennifer called back, simultaneously trying to revive her coffee maker through what could only be described as percussive maintenance. The machine responded with a death rattle that would have made a failing warp core proud. The emergency broadcast signal chose that moment to blare through every device in the house, including the smart fridge, which had never been particularly smart to begin with. "ATEN citizens of Earth," boomed a voice that somehow managed to sound both bureaucratic and tentacled. "This is High Admiral VRX of VDAZYRXIN Empire. Your plan ETHAS VENCLECT for immediate integration into our glorious civilization." Jennifer glanced at the kitchen clock. 15 minutes until Rachel needed to be at school. The volcano situation had to take priority. "Mom, are you listening? They're saying aliens are here." Rachel rushed into the kitchen, still holding her science project, white vinegar dripping onto the floor. "Honey, I can see them," Jennifer replied, nodding toward the kitchen window where the massive silvery shapes of Xeraxian warships were now visible in the morning sky. "But you know what your teacher, Mrs. Henderson, said about late assignments." The emergency broadcast continued. "Resistance is futile. Please prepare Form ZX 789 in TRIPLICATE." Jennifer's military-grade comlink, dormant for the past 3 years, suddenly buzzed to life. "Commander Morris," General Thompson's voice crackled through. "We need you back at Central Command immediately." "Can't do it, sir," Jennifer replied, finally abandoning the coffee maker and moving to help Rachel with the volcano. "I promised I wouldn't miss another school day this semester. Do you know what it takes to get back on the PTA's good side?" There was a pause on the other end. "Commander, there is an alien fleet." "Yes, sir, I can see them. Xeraxian Empire, about 40,000 ships, standard invasion formation. They're using the old ZX 789 forms, which means they're at least 3 bureaucratic cycles behind. We have time." She measured out a precise amount of baking soda. "Rachel, sweetheart, you used way too much vinegar. Remember the ratio we practiced?" The general's voice took on a desperate edge. "Jennifer, they're threatening to destroy our major cities." "No, they're not," Jennifer said, helping Rachel carefully pour the correct amount of vinegar. "They're threatening to integrate us. Xeraxians never destroy potential taxpayers. Trust me, I wrote half the first contact protocols for this scenario." The volcano began to foam satisfyingly. "There we go. See, Rachel. Perfect chemical reaction." Rachel beamed, but then looked worriedly at the ships visible through the window. "Mom, shouldn't we be scared?" Jennifer checked Rachel's backpack, making sure she had her lunch. "Honey, I spent 15 years dealing with alien civilizations. The Xeraxians are all about paperwork. By the time they finish filing their invasion permits, you'll be through with college." She handed Rachel her volcano. "Now, what's your presentation about?" "The chemical reactions in Earth's core and their relationship to volcanic activity," Rachel recited proudly. "And what's the most important thing about any presentation? Confidence and preparation." "That's my girl." Jennifer grabbed her car keys. "General, I'll be at Central Command at 900 after I drop Rachel at school. And sir, tell the response team to start going through their copy of the Galactic Bureaucratic Procedures Manual. The Xeraxians hate it when you know their own rules better than they do. As they headed for the car, another broadcast boomed. 18 July on Earth. Please be a device a-a-d-u-e-to-a-f-i-l-ing Weed mused t-e-m-p-o-r-a-or-i-l-y says U-S-P-N-D invasion o-p-or-a-t-i-o-n-s. Jennifer smiled. Some things never change, whether you were dealing with school administration or alien empires. She'd learned long ago that the universe ran on two things: paperwork and patience. Fortunately, being both a mother and a former fleet commander had made her an expert in both. Mom, Rachel asked as they pulled out of the driveway, her volcano secured safely in the backseat. Are you going to save the world today? Jennifer checked her rearview mirror, smoothly navigating around a group of people who had stopped in the middle of the street to take pictures of the alien ships. Of course, sweetheart. But first, you're going to ace that science presentation. Diplomatic chaos in space. The halls of Central Command hadn't changed in 3 years, though Jennifer noticed they'd finally fixed the coffee machine in the briefing room. Small mercies. She sat at the familiar oval table, surrounded by screens showing the Xeraxian fleet's positions, while General Thompson paced nervously. Let me get this straight, Jennifer said, reviewing the morning's communications. They'd brought 40,000 ships, but they can't start the invasion because someone filed their intent to conquer forms under last cycle's classification system. Correct. Lieutenant Rodriguez confirmed, pushing up her glasses. They're currently arguing with their own bureaucratic oversight committee about whether they need to refile everything or if they can submit an amendment form. Jennifer's phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Got an A+ on the volcano. D2 alien ships making it hard to focus in math class. Too shiny. Send a message to the Xeraxian flagship, Jennifer ordered, typing a quick, great job, honey, response. Request a preliminary discussion about their filing status, and somebody get me their administrative code handbook. The new edition. Commander, General Thompson interrupted, with all due respect, this isn't a paperwork issue. It's an invasion. Jennifer stood up, straightening her blazer. Sir, I spent 5 years negotiating with the Proxima Trading Consortium. Trust me, it's always a paperwork issue. She checked her watch. We have exactly 4 hours until I need to pick up Rachel for her drama club rehearsal. She's playing the lead in Our Town, and I promised I wouldn't miss it. The main screen flickered to life, revealing High Admiral Vrax of the Xeraxian Empire. Like all Xeraxians, he resembled a cross between a diplomatic attaché and a particularly elegant octopus, complete with a formal tentacle sash. Representative of Earth, Vrax began, then paused. Commander Morris, is that you? Jennifer smiled. High Admiral Vrax. I didn't know you'd been promoted. How's your clutch of spawn doing? Must be about ready for higher education by now. The aliens' chromatophores flickered with parental pride. Indeed, my eldest just submitted their application to the Imperial Bureaucratic Academy. The paperwork took 3 lunar cycles to complete. Only 3. They must have inherited your organizational skills. General Thompson watched this exchange with growing confusion. You know each other? Oh yes, Jennifer said. The High Admiral and I served on the Galactic Commerce Regulatory Committee together. His spawn and Rachel used to have virtual playdates. She turned back to the screen. Speaking of which, Vrax, did you really think you could invade during the school year? You know how hard it is to get children transferred mid-semester. Vrax's tentacles twisted uncomfortably. Yes, well, the timing was set by the Imperial Scheduling Division. We had limited invasion windows due to meteor shower season. And you're still using Form ZFX 789. That was outdated when we were still on the committee together. There may have been some oversight in our preparation, Vrax admitted, but surely we can resolve this with a simple administrative adjustment. Jennifer's phone buzzed again. Rachel, Drama teacher says alien invasion not valid excuse for missing rehearsal. Still need to be here at 3:30. Here's what we're going to do, Jennifer said, her voice taking on the tone she'd once used to coordinate fleet maneuvers. Your invasion force will maintain current position while we review the proper procedural requirements. I'm looking at the new regulations right now, and according to Section 7, Paragraph 12, any administrative errors requiring correction mandate a minimum 48-hour review period. Vrax's color shifted to a worried mauve. 48 hours, but the Imperial Oversight Committee would certainly want everything done properly, Jennifer finished. Unless you prefer I file a formal procedure violation complaint. I believe that's Form QRS 925 now, with the new appendices. The alien admiral's tentacles drooped. Perhaps a review period would be prudent. Excellent. We'll set up a preliminary administrative consultation for tomorrow. I have a window between dropping Rachel at soccer practice and the PTA meeting. Jennifer smiled. And Vrax, Rachel would love to have your youngest spawn join her virtual study group again. I hear they're both taking advanced xenobiology. After the screen went dark, General Thompson collapsed into a chair. Commander Morris, did you just delay an alien invasion by threatening them with paperwork and arranging a playdate? Study group, Jennifer corrected, gathering her things. And it's only delayed until we figure out how to make their own bureaucracy work in our favor. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to pick up cookies for the drama club bake sale. Can't save the world on an empty stomach. Lieutenant Rodriguez raised her hand tentatively. Ma'am, what if they decide to ignore the procedures and invade anyway? Jennifer paused at the door. Lieutenant, I once watched High Admiral Vrax spend 6 hours filling out a form in triplicate because he used the wrong colored ink. Trust me, they won't. But just in case, she smiled. I have a few more parent-teacher conference tricks up my sleeve. As she walked to her car, Jennifer's phone buzzed one more time. A message from High Admiral Vrax's personal account. Your suggestion of Form QRS 925 was most unsporting. Though I admit, I taught you well. Perhaps we could discuss this over virtual coffee. Like old times. Jennifer typed back. Only if you help me convince the drama teacher that an alien invasion is a perfectly valid reason to reschedule dress rehearsal. Above her, 40,000 ships hung in the sky, their invasion temporarily halted by the most powerful force in the galaxy, bureaucratic procedure. And somewhere in those ships, she knew, was at least one alien admiral discovering what she'd learned long ago. There's no negotiation more complex than one involving children's schedules, a mother's strategy. The next morning, Jennifer arrived at Central Command armed with two things: a perfectly organized binder of galactic regulatory codes and a batch of homemade chocolate chip cookies. Experience had taught her that both were essential tools of diplomacy. Status update, she asked, setting the cookies down in the briefing room. Lieutenant Rodriguez immediately grabbed one, having learned during yesterday's crisis that Jennifer's cookies were better than standard military rations. The Xeraxian fleet is still in holding position, Rodriguez reported between bites, but they filed 13 different types of deadline extension requests in the past 8 hours. Their administrative systems are apparently in complete chaos. Jennifer smiled, remembering how Vrax used to color-code his tentacles during particularly stressful committee meetings, and our countermeasures. We've submitted 7 procedural clarification requests, 3 appeals for administrative review, and 1 strongly worded memo about their non-compliance with updated form standardization protocols. Rodriguez paused. Also, your daughter's drama teacher sent another email about the importance of commitment to the arts during times of global crisis. Forward that last one to Vrax, Jennifer said, pulling up the galactic administrative calendar on her tablet. His spawn is in their school's production of the Metamorphosis. Very avant-garde interpretation, apparently. General Thompson burst into the room, looking harried. Commander Morris, we have a situation. The Xeraxian Imperial Oversight Committee has sent a special envoy. They're demanding an immediate resolution to the procedural deadlock. Perfect timing, Jennifer said, checking her watch. Rachel's study group meets in an hour. Did you know that High Admiral Vrax's youngest spawn has been helping her with technobiology? They're top of their class. The general's face went through several interesting expressions before settling on confusion. Commander, I fail to see how your daughter's study group is relevant to our planetary defense. Everything's connected, General. The key to dealing with bureaucrats, human or alien, is understanding their personal motivations. She stood up, straightening her jacket. Now shall we meet this envoy? The special envoy turned out to be a senior Zyraxian administrator named Klix, whose tentacles were adorned with so many official certification badges that they clinked when they moved. Their first words upon materializing in the briefing room were, "This invasion's paperwork is a disaster." Administrator Klix, Jennifer greeted warmly. "I hope you've brought the updated XJ 500 and 91 forms we requested. The ones with the new appendices about cultural preservation during planetary integration." Klix's chromatophores flashed with distress. "New appendices? I wasn't informed of any new appendices." "Oh dear," Jennifer said, pulling out her binder. "Well, according to the latest Galactic Administrative Bulletin. You do subscribe to the bulletin, don't you? All planetary integration proceedings must now include a minimum 3-month cultural impact assessment period." 3 months. Klix's tentacles writhed. But the invasion fleet's parking permits expire in 2 weeks. Not to mention, Jennifer continued, that we'll need to file environmental impact studies for each of your 40,000 ships. I believe that's Form ENV 2024 now, with separate submissions required for atmospheric and orbital positioning. The administrator's color had faded to a pale gray. The Oversight Committee will never approve the budget for that many filings. And then there's the matter of educational continuation protocols, Jennifer added, pulling up Rachel's study group schedule on her tablet. Did you know we have over 10,000 ongoing interspecies academic collaboration programs? The paperwork required to transition those during an invasion would be substantial. Klix peered at the tablet with interest. Is that the Imperial Standardized Curriculum format? We've been trying to implement that in our colony worlds for cycles. Oh yes, Rachel's study group was one of the pilot programs. They're achieving remarkable results, especially in xenobiology. In fact, Jennifer pulled up some charts. Their cross-species collaborative learning scores are among the highest in the sector. 2 hours later, General Thompson walked into the briefing room to find Jennifer and Administrator Klix surrounded by tablets, papers, and empty cookie plates, enthusiastically discussing educational reform. And if we implement these collaborative programs sector-wide, Klix was saying, tentacles gesturing excitedly, we could revolutionize interspecies education, which would, of course, require significant administrative oversight, Jennifer added. Probably a new division of the bureaucracy entirely. Commander Morris, the general interrupted. What's happening? Jennifer smiled. Administrator Klix has just agreed to propose a new initiative to the Imperial Oversight Committee. Instead of invasion, they're considering establishing Earth as the headquarters for a new department of interspecies educational administration. The paperwork will take years to process, Klix added cheerfully. But think of the organizational possibilities. And the invasion. Oh, that's been officially suspended pending comprehensive administrative review, Jennifer said. We'll need to maintain the current cultural exchange programs, though, including all existing study groups, for documentation purposes, of course. As if on cue, Jennifer's phone buzzed. Rachel. Mom. Vrax Jr. just helped me figure out the trickiest part of xenobiology homework. Also, can they come to our town performance? They've never seen Earth theater. Speaking of cultural exchange, Jennifer said to Klix, how would you like to experience some Earth dramatic arts? I happen to have front row tickets to a very promising production. Later that evening, as Jennifer drove home, Rachel asked, Mom, Did you really stop an alien invasion by getting them interested in our school system? Jennifer smiled, thinking of Clix's excitement over the possibility of standardizing interspecies academic certificates. Sometimes the best defense isn't weapons or wars, honey. Sometimes it's just helping people, or aliens, find something they care about more than fighting. Like education. And proper documentation. And she glanced at her daughter. Speaking of which, how's that biology homework coming along? Above them, the Xeraxian ships were already beginning to depart, leaving behind only a small administrative delegation and thousands of pending form submissions. Jennifer had learned long ago that the universe was full of threats that could be neutralized with superior firepower. But the really interesting problems, those were the ones you solved with patience, understanding, and occasionally cookies. Plus, she thought as she headed home, at least now Rachel would have an absolutely unique college application essay to write. The universe's biggest parent-teacher conference. 2 weeks after the almost invasion, Jennifer found herself in what might have been the most unusual parent-teacher conference in Earth's history. The school gymnasium had been temporarily converted into an interspecies educational summit, with holographic displays floating alongside student art projects. As you can see, Mrs. Henderson, the science teacher, explained to a group of fascinated Xeraxian education administrators, Earth's approach to hands-on learning has produced exceptional results. She gestured to Rachel's now famous volcano, which had somehow become a symbol of interspecies educational cooperation. Jennifer watched from the back of the room, sipping actually decent coffee provided by the Xeraxian Hospitality Division. Their beverage technology, at least, was significantly advanced. Commander Morris, High Admiral Vrax approached, his formal tentacle sash now adorned with educational merit badges. The Imperial Oversight Committee has finished reviewing the preliminary proposals for the Interspecies Educational Exchange Program. And Jennifer raised an eyebrow. They love it. Absolutely love it. They're talking about implementing it across 17 sectors. He shifted colors slightly, though they did have some concerns about the paperwork involved. Only 17 sectors. Jennifer smiled. I would have thought, given the success of our pilot program. Vrax's chromatophores flickered with amusement. You're still as tactical as ever, I see. Very well, I'll suggest expanding to 25 sectors. Their conversation was interrupted by Rachel rushing over, accompanied by Vrax's youngest spawn, both clutching tablets. Mom, Dad, they called out respectively. We just got our xenobiology project results. Both parents leaned in to look at the screens, tentacles and hands respectively reaching out to scroll through the presentation about comparative digestive systems across species. A perfect score, Jennifer and Vrax said simultaneously, then looked at each other with shared parental pride. You know, Vrax said thoughtfully, when I was assigned to lead this invasion fleet, I expected many outcomes. Creating an intergalactic educational revolution wasn't one of them. Jennifer watched as more students, both human and alien, gathered around the volcano display. Sometimes the best solutions aren't the ones we plan for. They're the ones we discover when we're willing to look past our original objectives. Like realizing that investing in education is more valuable than acquiring new territories. Vrax suggested. Exactly. Though I'm sure the reduced paperwork was a nice bonus. Home for dinner. The final meeting of the Interspecies Cooperation Committee took place in Jennifer's backyard, over a barbecue that had taken 3 diplomatic sessions to plan. Humans and Xeraxians mingled around the patio, sharing stories and comparing notes on parenting across species. Rachel and her alien classmates had set up a science demonstration table, proudly showing off their latest projects. The volcano had been retired, replaced by a sophisticated model of the galactic educational network they'd helped design. I must admit, General Thompson said, accepting a plate of carefully xenobiologist-approved food items, when you first suggested solving our alien invasion problem through parent-teacher conferences and study groups, I thought you'd lost your mind. That's because you were thinking like a military commander, Jennifer replied, checking on the grill. Sometimes the best way to prevent a conflict is to create connections that make it impossible. Mom, Rachel called out, can we show them the presentation about expanding the exchange program to the Andromeda Galaxy? After dinner, honey. Even intergalactic diplomacy has to wait for food. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Jennifer looked around her backyard. Where once she had expected to be organizing Earth's military defense, she was instead hosting a dinner party that would probably result in the largest peaceful cultural exchange in human history. Administrator Clicks, who had become a regular at these gatherings, waved her over with an excited tentacle. Jennifer, we've just received approval for the new Combined Species Advanced Learning Initiative. The paperwork was approved in record time, only 3 months. Wonderful news, Jennifer smiled. I assume this means we'll need to schedule more planning sessions. Oh yes, lots more. And more cookies if possible. I think that can be arranged. Later that evening, after the guests had departed and the diplomatic dishes were cleared away, Rachel helped her mother clean up the kitchen. Mom, she asked, putting away the last of the specially designed interspecies serving plates, do you ever miss commanding a space fleet? Jennifer thought about it as she wiped down the counter. You know, I thought I would. But it turns out that handling an alien invasion through parent-teacher conferences and study groups was probably the most important command I've ever had. Because you prevented a war. Because we created something better than victory, Jennifer replied. We created understanding. And that's worth all the paperwork in the galaxy. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. Plus, I got an A+ in xenobiology. That too. Jennifer hugged her daughter. Now, homework time. I believe you have some intergalactic geometry to finish. Already done. Vrex Jr. showed me a really cool Xeraxian shortcut for calculating hyperspatial angles. Above them, the last of the Xeraxian ships were visible as bright points of light in the evening sky. No longer an invasion fleet, but instead part of the newly established educational exchange force. In her office, Jennifer's old military commendations had been joined by new certificates, outstanding contribution to interspecies education, and excellence in diplomatic problem-solving through parental networking. She had saved Earth not through force or fear, but through something far more powerful, the universal language of parents wanting the best for their children, and the unstoppable force of properly filed paperwork. And tomorrow. Tomorrow she had another parent-teacher conference to attend, this time with representatives from 3 different galaxies. She'd better make extra cookies. The end.